This morning's Cowboys report focuses in on the defensive coordinator search. Shocking, I know. Who do you want as the Cowboys' next defensive coordinator to replace Dan Quinn? We'll break down the latest here, but get your comments in for me in the comments section. We begin with the latest on Joe Whitt Jr., the Cowboys passing game coordinator. As we'd previously mentioned on our defensive candidates list video, some conflicting info out there. Local media had pegged him as the obvious internal replacement for Dan Quinn. National media had immediately linked him to, hey, he might go with the Commanders and join Dan Quinn as his defensive coordinator. So there's some differences of reporting out there at the level that we normally don't see that type of differences in agreement there of local media thinks he's going to Dallas, national media thinks he's going to the Commanders. There is one report from Aaron Wilson that says he's the Commanders DC. That has not been confirmed by anybody else, so asterisk it, keep it in mind. Maybe there's some back and forth between all parties trying to figure out who goes where and et cetera. But that is significant and noteworthy because if you really want to just run it back, promoting the guy that was under Dan Quinn, who has been a Mike McCarthy assistant for a very long time, makes a ton of sense for the Cowboys organization. Whitt has served as this team's passing game coordinator since 2021. If Dan Quinn had not taken the Cowboys defensive coordinator job initially, decent chance Joe Whitt was going to be that guy. He interviewed for the job. Now, he does have ties to Dan Quinn. He was the Falcons passing game coordinator in 2020. He also spent a very long time working under Mike McCarthy alongside him in Green Bay. So the Whitt status is really interesting and, dare I say, confusing. Real chance he does not go. I will make note, I don't like the reporting of, they're going to interview outside guys, that's why they might lose him. I kind of think it's more of either you thought you were going to get him and you weren't so sure anymore and you changed and you had to pivot as well, or you just weren't going to get him in the first place. So I think there's some truth can be in between all those stories there. I don't know what happens with Joe Whitt. I think that the Cowboys had viewed him as the internal favorite. Maybe he didn't want to stick around. Maybe he wanted the better job security in Washington. We will know, I'm sure, in the coming days. So who do you think ends up landing Joe Whitt as their next defense coordinator? Seems like it's going to be one of these two teams. I'd be surprised if it was something else. WAS for the Commanders, DAL for the Cowboys. Go vote, especially if the ad comes here on YouTube. Speaking of the Commanders, Ron Rivera will be getting an interview with the Dallas Cowboys for the open defensive coordinator job. Keep an eye on that one happening early this upcoming week. Now, remember, Rivera had been linked to this job before Quinn even got the Commanders gig. That was the, there's NFL football being played on Sunday. Got to talk about the Cowboys somehow. That was the report from Ian Rappaport that day. Historically speaking, Mike McCarthy likes having former NFL head coaches as his defensive coordinator. He likes to have the experience and stability, and that all is valuable. You know, there's less of an unknown floor disaster risk by picking a former defensive coordinator. It's also, you could argue, the ceiling is maybe a little bit capped from that perspective. Rivera has not been a pure defensive coordinator in nearly 15 years. He was the Commanders head coach and the Panthers head coach from 2011 to this past season when, of course, he got fired. There is something, weird to think about Ron Rivera's last game getting blown out by the Dallas Cowboys and then getting a defense coordinator job. Also, kind of the inverse of of Dan Quinn getting blown out and then getting the Commanders head coaching job. Was Chargers linebackers coach for a brief period of time. Bears DC from 2004 to 2006. Has had interviews with the Cowboys previously for head coaching gigs, so there is some connection from that perspective. Rivera's interviews, meanwhile, there were 3 of them, or at least there were 3 requested interviews. The Eagles, the Rams, both those teams hiring defensive coordinators, and the Dallas Cowboys, now on that list as well. Overall, it's fine. It's not like, oh my God, it's the worst DCI ever. I think there are worse ones out there. But the retread route, isn't it tiresome? It's like, okay, we've done this, It's fine, I guess. It's not like you're hiring me as the defensive coordinator. You could hire Matt Patricia. Wouldn't that be worse? But hiring Rivera as your DC, does anyone feel better about that? Do you guys feel like, oh, yes, we upgraded at DC? I don't. I feel like you're hoping for something similar. Maybe it'll be better this time around, but it's very uninspiring to me. We'll spend some more time here on Rivera, and I've got a general question on who's actually running this defensive coordinator search. But today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. You pick 2 to 6 player stat projections, more than or less than on those stat projections, and if you get your picks right, the money ends up rolling in. Now, we are almost out of NFL Prize Picks to do. Super Bowl coming up next weekend. There's NBA, college basketball, and even esports if you're into that sort of thing. Here is one of my Prize Picks for Super Bowl Sunday. Sometimes Prize Picks gives you fun little bonuses. For example, more than a half passing yard for Patrick Mahomes. Easy money. I'm going to pair that one and go power play, go all out, all or nothing, with Christian McCaffrey, more than yards on the ground, 88.5, and more than Travis Kelce, 7 touchdowns. So the 2 best playmakers taking the more than on my favorite stats there. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for that first deposit match. Have some fun with daily fantasy. Before we get to Mike Zimmer, which we'll get to momentarily, who is running this search? Is this a Mike McCarthy-led search and the Jones boys signed off on it since they signed the checks? Or is it the Jones boys and Mike McCarthy says, sure, that's fine? Which one is it? Because if it's not Big Mike running this defensive coordinator search in his potential final year of his contract, why is he here? Why would you not let your head coach pick the DC? And if you go, well, I don't trust him, then why is he here? Why? Seriously. I will also make note, Ron Rivera was on the competition committee with Stephen Jones. Last time they interviewed for a big-time position, the head coaching job. Well, I guess they interviewed DC, but still. They interviewed Marvin Lewis, who was a good buddy with Stephen Jones on the competition committee. Just seems worth mentioning there. Now, do you want Ron Rivera as the Cowboys defensive coordinator? Y for yes, N for no. Sound off with your opinions for me in the comment section right now. One more name drawing big-time buzz is Mike Zimmer, who reportedly has interest in the Cowboys' open DC job. That came from Calvin Watkins, citing a source close to Mike Zimmer. I have a guess who it is. There's one of 2 people. It does sound like it's mutual interest. David Moore, who often operates as like, hey, he's got a good line with the Joneses, and when he writes is normally at least sourced from the Joneses a little bit there, that Zimmer's a great fit. Okay. I get it. I will say, when I sent out the tweet about the Jones boys have an idea of who they want to, who could fix the defense and put the picture of Mike Zimmer, many assumed that was shitposting. Understandably so. I actually wasn't. That was very real. That this was like, joking, but it's true type of deal. Zimmer was the Vikings head coach 2014 to 2021. Had things been timed up differently with when he got fired, he might have actually taken over as Cowboys head coach instead of Mike McCarthy. Timing didn't work out there. Long-time NFL coordinator for 13 years. Bengals, Falcons, and the Cowboys. And then, of course, was a long-time Cowboys assistant. He remains close with Steven and Jerry. So again, who's running the search? Maybe this fits both since Zimmer knows McCarthy very well from the time together in the NFC North. There's 2 ways to look at Mike Zimmer as the Cowboys defensive coordinator. He's had great success overall against the Shanahan scheme. Overall in Minnesota, and this backs the numbers in Cincinnati, in Atlanta, and Dallas, really great results. 4th in EPA per play, not as good in success rate, but when you generate sacks and turnovers and splash plays, as Zimmer's defenses often did, that is okay. That's why the success rate's higher and the EPA per play is lower. Some, red flags there on the ground game success rate flashes there. And in fact, from 2014 to 2019, there was no better defense overall in football. Number 1 in EPA per play, only 15th in success rate. So again, they got some sustained drives, but they always held on. Just valuable as far as I'm concerned. I'd rather have the great EPA per play than the success rate. It's fine. And it also ended badly. And I think that is what you have to figure out. Sometimes coaches, players, they just lose it and they never gain it back. 23rd in EPA per play, 28th in success rate, bad run defenses in his final 2 years in Minnesota, and his players were kind of over him in the end. He is more of a throwback, demanding coach, which is when it's working, it's great. When it's not, then sometimes things don't go very well. I think an interview is totally fine, and I think makes sense, because I would like to know, all right, Zim, things ended kind of poorly for you. What changes are you going to make? How have you learned to adjust to an offensive league that in 2024 is vastly different than 2019, 5 years ago, the last time you had great success? What's your plan to handle the motion issues this team has constantly faced in the last all of the years for the Dallas Cowboys? I would like to know those things. In the end of the realistic bunch, maybe Zimmer is your best option. Maybe because he's had success against Shanahan's offense that have plagued you under Dan Quinn. Maybe even if the regular season results aren't as good, the playoff results will be better. I will make note that it's verbatim the same thing I said when you moved on from Kellen Moore and made Mike McCarthy the head coach and made Mike McCarthy the play caller. Didn't happen at all in the playoffs. Hopefully it will this time. We will have all the updates as they happen on the Cowboys Defensive Coordinator search, so make sure you are subscribed. YouTube.com/@CowboysTV.